What's up, you beauties? Welcome to another HW Hockey Rumor Central, your go-to channel for the latest in the world of hockey. I'm your host, Jim Iacovone, and today we have some exciting trade rumors to discuss, centering around Philadelphia Flyers winger Joel Farabee. There's been a lot of buzz lately involving possible trade destinations, especially if you listen to our show. We've kind of been speculating on potential destinations for the last couple weeks, or it even seems like since the end of the season back in April, with destinations including the Buffalo Sabres, the Anaheim Ducks, Ottawa Senators, and even the Utah Hockey Club. We'll break down what these potential moves could mean for Farabee and the teams involved. So let's dive right in. And let's start with this. According to our good friend Anthony DeMarco of the Fourth Period, and this is a direct quote, and you're not going to find this anywhere else right now except for this show. Joel Farabee's name is out there, but there's very little traction. When asked if this was because of a lack of interest or if teams just aren't willing to pay the asking price, DeMarco responded, "I'd say a bit of both. The Flyers are seemingly keeping a lot close to the vest right now, so it's time to speculate and talk rumors, and who doesn't love rumors?
I love rumors.
Don't we all? So let's kind of start out here with the first team on our list. And just a few weeks ago, this team made a lot of sense as a trade partner, at least to me, for Joel Farabee, and that's the Buffalo Sabres. The Sabres have sort of been on a mission to they've been going through a rebuild for what seems like the last decade, and they're, I think, looking to make moves for more grittier, more well-rounded players with maybe a little sprinkle in of leadership. And obviously, Scott Laughton fits a lot of that bill. We had Michael Giello of the Hockey Writers on a few weeks ago. We talked about Scott Laughton, but another name for me is Joel Farabee. And I think Joel Farabee could be a perfect fit for Buffalo's roster. You know, he's a more well-rounded guy, 50, 60-point player. Buffalo has centers to pair Farabee up with, you know, who I think good center play would benefit a player like Joel Farabee. I think the Sabres could be a match. I think they're a team that could be willing to part with maybe some draft picks or some young players. If they bring in a player like Farabee, they could pair Farabee up with players like Tage Thompson. Rasmus Dahlin's obviously a young part of their core, so they don't want to waste a lot of time anymore. And maybe the trade route is something the Sabres start to explore there a little bit. So I mentioned Buffalo could be interested in a Scott Laughton. They're looking to add leadership grit, as mentioned. So add in the fact that Farabee is from New York. I think he's from Syracuse. Have to double check. Maybe there's a match there. Some players who could come back the other way. Peyton Krebs has been a guy that's come up in rumors quite often when it comes to the Flyers and Sabres. Mattias Samuelsson is a player who has Philadelphia ties. His father played for the team, Shel Samuelsson. He was, I think he was head of player. I don't want to say head of player development. I can't quite remember the position, but he was with the organization for a long, long time. I believe up until this most recent season. So he's got family ties. I think he was actually born in Philadelphia, maybe grew up here. So Mattias Samuelsson could be a guy that comes back, and maybe, you know, I don't know. There's going to be a big fish for each one of these teams, and Owen Power could be a guy that comes back the other way in a bigger trade, of course. You know, Buffalo just acquired Bowen Byram, and, you know, I don't know how they're going to pay all three of these guys. I think Power's already signed to a long-term deal, $8+ million, but left side, maybe the Flyers, maybe it's something bigger there. Obviously, it wouldn't just be for Farabee. So what else I thought was interesting with Buffalo is they do have some center prospects. Noah Ostlund, Matt Savoy. There are pieces there that Buffalo could put in a trade for Joel Farabee. I think it's also worth mentioning that Buffalo has pick 11 in the upcoming 2024 NHL draft, so maybe that's in play as well. Buffalo, for me, is a very intriguing team in the trade. And yeah, Jonathan Nesbitt chiming in here, doubt their trading power. Yeah, and that's kind of like the pipe dream player there. So somewhat unrealistic. Well, it could be realistic, I guess, depending on what kind of pipe you're smoking. But yeah, so that was kind of just, a guy. Okay, well, if you really want to pay up here, what can we get for all this? So let's move on. Our next team on the list here is the Anaheim Ducks. The Ducks are also in sort of a rebuilding phase, but it seems like they're trying to get to the next part of that phase. And they could benefit from a player like Joel Farabee's presence on the left side. So Anaheim has a lot of young talent. I think specifically the player that comes to mind for most is Trevor Zegras. In my opinion, Farabee's style of play would complement Anaheim's young core of centers and Leo Carlsson and Mason McTavish. I think it's an intriguing destination, especially, as I mentioned, if Anaheim is looking to accelerate their rebuild a little bit. Trevor Zegras, as I mentioned, could be the target. It seems like Anaheim is set at their top two center positions, making Zegras available. So as we all know, Anaheim acquired Cutter Gauthier from the Flyers earlier in last season. He's going to take up a top six left wing role. So we're looking at Gauthier's pure scorer. There's not much defense to his game, which is why he's going to play the wing in Anaheim. And guys like McTavish and Carlsson are going to hold down the top two center spots. Anaheim could be looking to add another top six wing, but maybe a guy who's maybe a little bit more defensively responsible, and enter Joel Farabee. To me, a trade centered around Zegras and Farabee makes a lot of sense. Will anything extra have to be added? That's up to you guys to speculate. I don't know. But the framework of a deal, I think, could at least be there. We know that Zegras has been in the rumor mill for a couple seasons now, and his buddies Cam York, Jamie Drysdale already play for the Flyers now. So, I'm sure they're all talking and, during the offseason and getting together like, hey, it's pretty nice out in Philly. You'd enjoy it out there, yada, yada. So maybe there's a desire to bring the exciting offensive talent and Trevor Zegras to Philadelphia and move maybe a more well-rounded player in Farabee. Obviously, the offensive, talent is not as high, but it's a trade that I think would make sense for both sides. And teams out there recognize that, it might seem like Anaheim holds all the cards here, but I think they're actively looking to move Zegras. I think they would prefer a player whose main position is more wing. I think putting Zegras out on the left side is more out of necessity than they actually want to play him out there. So you bring in a Farabee, you're bringing in a guy that actually plays the position and knows how to play it defensively. Playing with centers like Carlsson and McTavish maybe helps his offensive game out a little bit more. So it's a trade that I believe could benefit both sides. Okay. If we kind of move on here a little bit, the next team on the list, and we're turning our attention to the Ottawa Senators. The Senators have been actively looking to fix what's going on with their lineup, and they were a team that was not supposed to be worse than the Flyers this year, and they were. They're picking, I believe, 7th in the first round of the NHL draft. Ottawa has some assets and prospects that could make a deal enticing for the Flyers. Pairing Farabee like players with Tkachuk or Stützle or even Giroux again could create a dynamic offensive threat for the Senators. So what does Ottawa have that could come back? Well, it's well known that the Flyers and Senators have been talking trade going back to at least the 2024 NHL trade deadline, and even further back to the beginning of last season. Players of interest for the Flyers, I believe, could be Shane Pinto, or at least should be Shane Pinto, Jacob Chychrun, and dare I say it? So I said there's going to be a pipe dream player, but even Brady Tkachuk, obviously a 1-for-1 Farabee for Tkachuk is not happening. All right, so relax a little bit. But the thing is, Ottawa also has interest in Scott Lawton, and they're looking to bring in leadership. They're looking to bring in a gritty type of forward. Tkachuk has been rumored, whether you believe those rumors or not. Maybe he wants to play on a team from the East Coast. I think the Devils have been rumored. Flyers are only an hour and a half away. Maybe the Flyers could be a destination. I'm not ruling Tkachuk out, right? I'm going to say, hey, there's at least a 1% chance. Wayne Gretzky was traded. Brady Tkachuk can be traded, right? I'm pretty certain the Flyers have, at least asked, like, okay, if we put a package, could he be available? But I don't want to make this about Brady Tkachuk, but he's a guy I think the Flyers should at least be checking in on. Hey, if we put a package together, is he somebody that you'd consider moving type thing? But I think players that are more likely available, Jacob Chikrin, Shane Pinto. The current rumor out there is that the Flyers and Senators do have trade framework in place, but the deal would not be done until closer to the draft. And what that tells me is this is all pending on if a player that the Flyers would want at 7 is available, or they believe could be available, which would, obviously the number 7 pick would be coming back from Ottawa. If this is a major deal, maybe we see both Farabee and Lawton moved with a potential larger return coming back from Ottawa. Is that Jacob Chikrin and the 7? We'll see. But I think Ottawa for sure is the team that we need to keep an eye on the most of the 4 teams mentioned in this clip. The Flyers are rumored they want top picks. So that 7 is pretty desirable for them. I believe the Flyers have the ammunition to hopefully acquire that pick. Now, whether they move up from 12, meaning, they give up a Farabee or a Lawton plus the 12 for 7 and Chikrin, right? That could make sense. A Farabee and 12 for Chikrin and the 7 could make sense. We'll see. I'm not saying I even want that to happen. I'm just, kind of putting it out there that, hey, maybe this is something we need to take a look at. So lastly here, the Utah Hockey Club, or whatever their name's going to be. Utah have been rumored to open. They've been open to trading pick 6, something that the Arizona Coyotes didn't really do during their existence. They kind of used all their draft picks and were in the business of acquiring draft picks. I'm wondering if Utah is going to use this opportunity to sort of captivate a fresh new fan base right away. Do they trade the 6th overall pick in an attempt to bring in high-profile players, sort of like Vegas did? A trade here might make sense for a Travis Konechny rather than a Joel Farabee, but I felt Utah was worth mentioning since I get the sense that they could sort of be a wild card this summer. So paying attention to Utah as sort of a destination, for guys like Konechny. Farabee, I'm not so much sure of, but figured I would add him in that anyway. So we're coming to the end of the video here. So what does this all mean for Joel Farabee and the Flyers? Obviously, Farabee is a talented young winger with a lot of potential. I think any team acquiring him would be getting a valuable asset. For the Flyers, moving Farabee could bring in key pieces to help their own rebuild or even push for the playoffs. So it seems like they're kind of doing both at once here. It's sort of a delicate balance of risk and reward. And, what makes these trade rumors so compelling? So we're going to kind of wrap this one up. I appreciate everyone that's taken time out of their day on this Friday afternoon to watch. That's all we have. So on the HW Hockey Rumor Mill. So what do you guys think about these trade rumors? There's sort of a lot, but it's nothing that I don't think, it's already been out there. Obviously, we have the quotes from Anthony DeMarco of the 4th period earlier in the episode. Could you guys see Farabee fitting in with the Senators? Could you see him fitting in with the Sabres, Ducks, or even Utah? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And if you have not already, please remember to subscribe to the video and hit the like button. So until next time, I'm Jim Iacovone, and thanks for watching.